well, was it a minute and a half, 2 minutes? We're now the experts. The next person that comes behind us, they need to be trained. They want to know that you're going to help them in their next roles. So, remembering that we are all experts now, Ed Witte is our current president of the Valparaiso Toastmasters Club. He also served his club as treasurer and vice president of education. He's been a Toastmasters for 5 years. Ed is an advanced Toastmaster Silver, and this year he has focused his projects on storytelling. And he works, and the works about Yukon Gold Rush by Robert Service. Don't ask you about Alabaska Dick, is that correct? Yes. And Sam McGee. Ed is a training coordinator for BP Pipelines located in Maryville, Indiana. He is a training and performance improvement professional, and last year completed the ASTD, Educational Program in Human Performance and Improvement. Ed welcomes your questions and observations and wants you to remember that you can go right to the source, ask the horse, he'll give you the answer that you'll endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed. Yes,
Thank you, John. Welcome and good morning. Meg did a great presentation. Covered lots of good stuff, lots of things that can be useful for us. Having had the opportunity to play the role as treasurer and vice president of education, and now as president of my club, but also being and participating in other organizations as well, some well-organized like Toastmasters and some pretty loose, we all recognize that there's sort of a key ingredient we need to keep in mind. It begins with that first part of the phrase about plan your work. And it sounds great. We learned it clear back when we were in junior high and high school and college and all through our lives. We realized the value of having a plan, but we also recognize that it's hard to put together a plan. And especially when you step into a role inside of a Toastmaster club, you say, I got to get all this done. I have no way to do it. We're not the first ones down this creek. There's trail markers. There's signs to follow. It's in our manual. And so what I want to recommend that you is really focus on that section that has to do with the little calendar. It's a calendar or a checklist. It tells you each month what you ought to be looking at. The plan's already laid out. All we need to do is really focus on the second part of this phrase, which is what? Work your plan. The plan's the easy part. It's spelled out for you in your manual. It's spelled out in the Distinguished Club program. All you have to do is take a look at those plans and say, what's going to have the biggest impact? Any of you involved with quality management work, where you work at outside of Toastmasters? All right, you ever heard of Pareto analysis? Got a few nods for Pareto analysis, right? Pareto was this Italian economist from years ago that kind of figured out that, wow, 80% of the wealth of any given country, no matter when it was in history, was controlled by about 20% of the people. But when we began to look at why do things not work well at work, we typically found that 80% of the problems were related to 20% of the steps, right? And likewise, 80% of our success as a club is related to maybe only 20% of all those things that are in that plan. Now, it looks different for each club. What is that 20% that gets me that 80% of it accomplished? But that's our role as leaders. Yes, we have all these things to do as a vice president of education, all these things to do as a vice president of PR, but which things make sense in our club's situation? What are those, as one consultant I had the chance to work with, referred to as the slow fat rabbits, right? What's the low-hanging fruit? What are those things that only take 20% of our effort but get us the biggest reaction? Work your plan then, of course, has to do with all those things that go on not only inside the meeting but outside the meeting, right? Those follow-up phone calls, that making sure that I do have someone lined up to mentor, and at a minimum, at least, that we make those contact with members who weren't at the meeting last week, only under the auspices of, hey, It was a great program. Meg did this wonderful speech. We talked about how dues were due. Hope to see you next time. And maybe that's all the contact is a phone message that covers that. But it's making sure that people understand they're connected. It's making sure that when we planned our work, that we know who's going to do what by when, and how do we find out when it's done, so that we can do the most important part, and that is recognize. Thanks, Meg, for taking care of that. How many times have you done things for an organization and that simple handshake wasn't there? And you felt like it wasn't worthwhile. Did that cost me any time or any effort or any money out of my pocket as president or leader of this club? No. We have lots of capital that we can use by connecting with other people, by letting them know that we appreciate the work they do, letting them know that they've made a difference. So the only thought I want to leave with you is plan your work, and TI's already figured it out for us, and work your plan. Thank you.
Thank you.